That's interesting.
Oh, this is bad.
Ooh.
Use me, princess.
Nope, you're dead.
Huh, I could still use abilities after my HP got to 0. Huh.
Do you need to borrow
Tim.
my FFX login?
Tam has switched to playing Infinite Dendrogram.
Not yet. Oh, I was gonna say something. Oh, my thing about, like, placing Waymar is that, like, what if they make more fights like, Shinryu, where you're, like, transferring from platform to platform and you need to place them elsewhere.
Get good, scrub.
They'll have to keep that in mind when they're designing fights.
It's a new design restraint.
So fortunately, waymarks are saved between instances. However, you can't place them to begin with in Shinryu, so I don't know how that's gonna work.
Go in once just to place markers and wipe.
You can't in
You
combat.
can't do it in combat, and the platform doesn't exist.
Oh.
Right? Get wrecked.
I was thinking you can't move them, but... Yeah, you're right.
Just feels like sour grapes. Like they couldn't find a good way to do it, so they just turn it off during combat.
Incoming actual memory injection.
Alright.
Good dude.
Auto attacks.
Yeah. Started at slightly lower than normal.
Oh, I posted a video of how I play Final Fantasy XIV.
I watched it. I still don't believe it.
It's really simple. He was in a dungeon, so he didn't have to do shit except his upheaval comb.
Wait, how do you move the camera? Left and right arrows?
Yep. Unless I really have to with the mouse.
What about 180s?
That's when I have to use the mouse.
But your hand's nowhere near the mouse.
When you see my right hand go off screen, that's when it's touching the mouse.
But okay.
I also use the mouse to target.
He's not really in the middle.
He's a little off.
Guess I was a little bit too far to the side.
Yeah, you guys are like almost touching me.
I mean, my body fell directly towards his. I died where my feet are. Wasn't that far out of place.
I can hit 30 buttons with just the number pad.
So I guess I can't give you too much shit, Tam, because my push to talk key is the asterisk on the number pad. So I have to actually let go of my mouse to say anything.
My push to talk button is Alt, and I use my right thumb or my left thumb to do it.
What if you push buttons?
As long as I'm not trying to target something else, I won't get out of my screen because I tap target.
Mine is mouse 4. And I actually broke the mouse 4 button on my last mouse.
Mine is tilde. So I can't do mechanics or move while I'm talking.
Tilde is such a premium key, though.
And it's not just gone.
Oh dear.
I'm not accepting that.
Yeah. that's
I
a
have
trap
Fire
rail.
4 mapped to Tilde. That's how important that key is.
Who invested Salenta?
My tilde key is my mount button.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I hit it all the time when I'm out of combat.
I don't use the tilde key.
What? You use tab? It's not that much further for your pinky.
I don't use my pinky. I use my ring finger.
Wait, there's no way
Clearly.
that Pinky can reach that tilde. What the heck? You're on WAS, right?
Clearly, you just need to play with two 32 key stream decks with contextual hotkeys for every.
No, your pinky can't reach Tilde?
If you
I mean,
put your,
if I'm
your your middle finger on W, your ring finger on A, how in the world are you gonna reach tilde?
Move your
Right
hand up.
now.
He's got a wicked crack nail or coke nail.
It's like 2 inches off.
Well, I mean, if you rotate your hand 45 degrees,
Do you play with your keyboard like horizontal? You don't ever watch the pros that play like League and Dota and shit? They always play on an angle.
Well, I need to be able
Counter-Strike players do too, actually.
I need to be able to hit control and like G. I can't hit tilde. Oh, I think that person. This is fine. Wait, what?
Oh,
So I think I am having problems now.
You certainly are,
Yes.
but that's not why we died. Unless you like nuked an ad.
you cannot be targeted.
I mean, if I just like curl my fingers up, I can get my pinky to the tilde key. But my pinky is usually the control key.
Yeah, that's the way I play. My pinky is like doing this little control shift dance. And then sometimes I'm like playing octaves with a 7 or 8 key, but usually not in the middle of combat. I don't lay my bars out where that's necessary.
Control
I mean,
8.
I guess I could get 45 buttons if I use the shift key.
I have literally never pressed Control 8 in combat.
Yeah, I don't have control 8. It's not even
I
on
do
my
use
bar.
I do use the 8 key. 6, 7, 8 are my summons. And in particular, 8 is Ifrit. So
which
during a
we never
dungeon...
use.
Well, no, during a dungeon I switch between Garuda
yeah,
and
Garuda.
Ifrit all the time.
Yeah.
And I was going to, in this fight, switch to Titan for that extra shield, and you guys are like, we got it, and I'm like, sweet, that means that I don't have to learn how to play this class.
Are you actually supposed to use Titan maybe?
No, it's a DPS loss. It's a hard DPS loss.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But it exists.
Where's that like 600 potency heal thing? You should time that better in the future instead of yeah.
fun.
Trying to too close in.
No. You really can't be over that line, can you?
Oh, come on! Oh.
For 7 and 8, hang on, don't pull yet. For 7 and 8, are they the very next one, or do they skip one because 5 and 6 are going like 1.5?
They are 6 rotations away from where we start.
So we started on 1, right? So first group's on B, second group's on C, third group is here, and fourth group's here-ish.
Well, third
Or
group is a little
here-ish.
past that, isn't it? Because we're overrunning it. So then our 7, like almost in the same pie slice as 5, or are we the next one over?
Or I guess it's 5 pie slices, because it's like 1, 2, or 1, 1.5, 1.5, 1. Basically.
I thought it was 1, 2, 1.5, 1.
Well, it's like here, right? You want to be like here?
For 5 and 6?
For 3 and
3 and
4.
4, it's like here.
And then 5 and 6 is like right here.
Oh, so are they not skipping one anymore? I
Well,
thought they were
because
doing a
they
whole
should-
thing and then skipping.
3 and 4 are the one that skips.
Oh no, I thought we were overrunning for 5 and 6.
Well, no, because 3 and 4 is when the middle explosion happens. So that's one of the 2 ticks. So you only go 1 pie slice up for 5 and 6. And then 7 and 8, it's you go to the end.
I thought we had changed it that 5 and 6 were overrunning because people kept getting, or 6 kept getting hit with this. Or was that 4 that was happening to? Am I misremembering?
That was 4 that it was happening to.
Oh, okay.
It also happens to 6. 6 would like to be on this side of this, on the pie slice.
So they are passing, but so then, if you were 6 there, am I 7 here, or am I the next slice of?
The odds should always be 1 away from the other odd,
Actually, no.
wherever the even is.
If 3 and 4 were here, right? Then technically 5 and 6 should be on this one. So 5 should be here, 6 should be here.
But I thought we were making like 6 go past that line because 6 was getting hit by the explosion following.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that was a thing.
I actually did get hit by the one following. But that's just because I have no idea where 5 was.
Well, here's, I guess, the next question. Is there any reason that 7 and 8 shouldn't skip a slice and go to the one afterward?
There's
Well, 7
not
and
enough
8
time.
7 and 8 can be all the way at the end. Because if you're not participating in 7 and 8, you can move into the middle, right?
Yes.
Or is there
Right.
a middle explosion? Or is that after the middle explosion?
You have plenty of time to move into the middle. And then 7 and 8 happens. Or 7
Middle
happens when the middle thing happens. Then 8,
Yes.
you're free to go to the middle, so yeah.
As long as 8 doesn't go into the middle, that would be the worst.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm 3, I'm here. Where's 5?
If you're 3, you should be like here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I'm 3, I'm here. Where's 5?
Is 5 not right here?
5 should be.
thought
Should
5
be.
was running.
Or it could be all the way at C?
That's a little sketchy, because then it could hit the people who are waiting for the explosion to go off, right?
No, there
Right,
isn't
well-
one.
The problem is, like, the further up you make 5 and 6, 3 and 4 can't leapfrog them in time. That's why they only go one slice. Because 3 and 4 happen, they need to not get hit by 6's dash.
I was 3 that time. I didn't feel any pressure at all.
I was 4 that time, I felt pressure.
Yeah, it's the even numbers that feel the pressure.
Like, being able to get to the far side so that you're not getting hit by the cleave and also not getting hit by the charge is pretty tight.
Can't you just run through the middle?
No. Like, the charge itself is pretty wide. And if you're running through the middle, you're likely to get clipped by the explosion that happens when 7 and 8 goes off.
I'd already caught up by the time 7 and 8 go off. So
Right.
I guess maybe you're a little bit behind me, but I wouldn't think it'd be that big of a difference.
I think it's safe to only go one pie slice, or 1 and a smidge pie slice for 5 and 6.
Which is what I thought we were doing originally. I thought 5 and 6 were overrunning a little bit to account for that. Hence my question, if we're overrunning one of the pies, then are 5 and 7 technically in the same pie? Or is 7 compensating for the 5's overrun and going 1 extra?
No, 7 can actually move 2 pie slices worth, because the reason why there's a little bit of a stutter is because of the middle explosion. But all the explosions after that are moving in order, so 7 and 8 can move 2 whole pie slices past 5. And since everyone's dodging into the middle, 5 and 6 don't have to worry about getting on the far side of 7 and 8.
Okay. Do I risk it? It says 25.
I think that is.
I got hit by 2 streams.
I might have charged in a little late. Apparently not late enough to get hit by my AoEs, but late enough to where I didn't get the protein wave.
Ah, I ran too far. Starting forward.
Oh no. I don't know why I'm accepting this, but what the hey?
I'm gonna ask a super forward question. Which one are we supposed to be hitting first here?
Who knows?
I took something from someone.
Well, we don't actually know how this phase is supposed to go.
All right, I'm
Got
gonna
a lot of colors.
I'm gonna make a a perhaps unpopular suggestion, which is for the rest of this fight, can we just look up at the strat? Because it takes so long to get to that phase that I don't think I wanted to do trial and error.
My
I don't think any-
opinion, if I may, before we came in here, I said this, I guess I'll reiterate. Even when we know the strat, which we do, we just still really struggle because these fights aren't really so much about strategy as far as execution. So I certainly don't have any issue with looking up strategy.
The fights are about strategy for world first people.
Yeah, not for us. For us, it's absolutely execution, I think.
Well, we also kind of have our own flavor of solution.
Yeah, I mean, we will tweak the solution, but I'm totally fine with knowing ahead of time, like reading off of a menu. These are the things that exist, and these are the suggested solutions to deal with them.
Which is what we did with the Final Cut, right? We took like 3 different strats and kind of fused them into this little amalgamation that we have. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do it that way. I mean, I can't imagine how long we would have been stuck on that if we didn't do that.
Here's another question, which is, did we want to try splitting into 2 groups again, or since now that we have more experience with the limit cut, or do we want to continue with what we're doing currently?
I vote continue. But I haven't really had problems with it for a while, so yeah. I don't think 5 and 6 should be that should be like really up to the line. That's just not a good idea, I don't think. But that's me. So what, over past the line?
Mm-hmm. Like I was right here. Tally was
As
here.
5?
Yeah, I was here as 5. Tally was here for 6. Tylee's body was here but died to the explosion behind him. I was like right here when the explosion behind me got to me. There's enough time, I got away, but like holy cow, it was that close. There's no way 6 can make that.
So we're saying if
Just like right
3
here.
and 4, if 3 starts right here, where are you putting 5?
Here's fine.
Okay.
Basically 6 can be on this side of the line, but as soon as you think the server has locked in your position, please get out of that pie slice. And then move immediately to this pie slice as fast as you can. And then you'll be fine.
Split 1 to 4 and 5 to 8 on the sides. What do you mean?
So, like when we first started it, it was like 1 and 2 and 5 and 6 were like on one side, and then the other. Is there a way you're just like 1, 2, 3, 4 are left, and then 5 through 8 are right?
I
And
mean,
if not, why?
you can't. The advantage of the other way, of having it 1, 2, 5, 6, is you have the most time to switch your little group around between the 2 sets of mechanics, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, you have that problem where you have to leapfrog the other people. But if it's 1, 2, 5, 6, well, 1 and 2 happen pretty much right away. 5 and 6 aren't going to be happening for a long time. You have plenty of time to get back into position. The hardest part with the 1, 2, 5, 6 is making sure that people go to the correct direction, which is like, all right, we'll call out a number like A1, B2, and then if you're 1, 2, 5, 6, you go there. Otherwise, you go the opposite. And you have to everyone has to make that decision split second.
And if one person does it wrong, we all wipe.
Which is why I think we weren't a huge fans of that idea to begin with, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, if you're on controller, that's going to be very difficult. Because it's like, you look in the area, and then it's like B, you do a 180 and start going the other way.
I mean, what you would do is you wouldn't be looking at A through 2, you would be looking at the opposite side of the arena and then run to whichever unmarked area is there.
That is true.
Here's a super
Either that, or you
convoluted
would look
idea.
through A through 2 and go the opposite way.
That doesn't work on a controller.
So I have a super hot take that's probably impossible. Is there a world where everyone can be in the middle except for when the explosion hits, and then when it's your turn, you're like not in the middle or you're off to the side a little bit?
That sounds
Too hot.
sketch.
Too hot of a take. Because really, the middle only explodes twice total, right?
I think that world exists for a grand total of maybe 8 seconds.
Yeah, also, like, the other explosions reach pretty close to the middle. Like, like inside that little circle is safe, but like here, you're getting exploded. I went to see graphically on the thing, it comes to like right here, which means you would need to be able to get from here outside of here
Yeah,
in the
you're
span
right.
of one explosion.
That's too hot of a take. We'd have to like start moving during like the third explosion, I guess. Nah, this is too convoluted. Whatever.
I think we got our strat. There's a few minor tweaks that we could do, but then like we pretty much got it.
Yeah, and this is the sort of like minutia and trying to polish execution by fidgeting with the details, like, are we standing here or are we standing here? Like, that actually matters when we're doing the execution, because of things like, you know, how long does it take someone to run when they get knocked back.
So just as a final reiteration, so 5 and 6, we are overrunning a pie slice again, right?
Yeah,
Just a little.
Okay.
I think it would be like the like, if this is one light in, the other one would be one light past. So it'd be like here.
I think that's fair. And then like 6 in that case, it would just be at C, like here basically, just on the other side of it.
You can be past. You can be on the other side, but you must run immediately. You have about maybe half a second between the time it charges you, and you need to be on this slice, and then you have about 2 seconds to cross this pie slice.
I mean, there's no reason not to be using sprint during that phase, is there?
I don't think we need sprint for any other part of this fight.
I don't know, as a cushion. So, well, for now at least. Until unless it determines, or it is determined that we need it later on, I don't see one reason not to be using sprint.
It has a
It lasts
60
almost the whole
second
phase.
recast, so we will not need it within 60 seconds of this mechanic. Unless we need it for the run in, run out thing, which I hope that we don't need sprint to solve that part.
Somehow I doubt it.
Okay, well then my next question becomes, are we going to keep focusing on practicing that, or are we going to dip our toes into the next phase a little bit so at least we know what to expect when the phase happens, if we fluke our way into it?
I mean, that's what I've been doing while you guys have been talking. I've just been reading about it.
Okay. It definitely seems like we're pretty close to just fluking our way into a phase change with everyone alive.
Got like 7 last week.
Yeah, I'm sure it won't be on purpose, but we'll take it until we get it back.
Are you gonna look at Cleese as our like guiding?
I'm gonna look it up on Cleese because they have the most thorough wording.
What did that hyper nerd say? It was like in, out, in or something was the general mechanics during that fight?
Yes.
Yeah, like you stay in the middle. Alright, phase 2. So first we have J-Kick, then we have Judgment Nisi, inflicts either all 4 DPS or all healers and all tanks. There's an Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. They are also color-coded. Judgment Nisi can be passed to players by standing on top of them. If a player is inflicted by 2 different types of Judgment Nisi, they will both be targeted by Final Judgment, instantly killing them. Link Up. inflicts a random healer with compressed water, and a random DPS with compressed lightning. More on that later. Missile Command targets the furthest 2 players from Brute Justice with an Earth Missile followed by a Mine, which must be triggered by a tank before it explodes and wipes the raid. That sounds familiar. Shortly after, targets a random tank with Ice Missile and 2 random DPS with Enumeration 3. We're just covering all of the mechanics from Alexander. Alright, Earth Missile targets the 2 furthest players, leaves a puddle. This is like the puddles left in Titan. Leaves inflicting Sludge, the movement speed debuff, to all players who stand in it. Sludge is a dot that does lethal damage on every tick, so you don't want Sludge. Mine targets the 2 furthest players, leaves behind a hidden mine, which must be triggered by a tank before it explodes and wipes the raid. Triggering the mine deals heavy magic damage to the tank, which cannot be mitigated by invulnerabilities. So you have to use normal damage reduction cooldowns. Ice Missile targets a random tank, leaves behind a growing ice AoE, which does heavy dot damage to anyone who stands in it. Ice puddles can also freeze tornadoes left by compressed water, which is probably important because I bet he does a flash later on also, where we have to have an ice block to hide behind. Enumeration 3 targets 2 random DPS. It's a circle AoE that requires 3 and exactly 3 players to stand inside the circle. Enumeration 3 AoEs cannot be overlapped. So, every single one of those were things that existed in the Savage version. Next, Flare Thrower targets the closest player from Brute Justice with a large cone AoE, dealing significant magic damage and inflicts fire resistance down 2. Also destroys tornadoes caused by compressed water. Verdict. Brute Justice inflicts a series of debuffs, ordering players to have certain debuffs at the end of Gavel, which is the long cast, requiring players to be inflicted with a certain type of Judgment Nisi. More again below. Super Jump. Brute Justice jumps towards the furthest player from it and at the end of the cast, and knocks back other non-targeted players who are hit by the jump. I remember that also. Apocalyptic Ray. Brute Justice aims towards the furthest player and launches a persistent cone AoE in front of it, dealing lethal damage to all players who stand inside it. Double Rocket Punch is a tank buster that has to be split among 2 tanks. And Final Judgment is the 5-second enrage cast. So, those are the mechanics of Brute Justice. Now here's Cruise Chaser. Alpha Sword targets the closest player from Cruise Chaser and does a large cone, dealing significant physical damage, and affects magic vuln down and physical vuln down. Inflicts a knockback when used with Limit Cut. Super Blasty Charge dashes towards a player, dealing physical damage, and inflicts both magic vuln and physical vuln down. Inflicts a knockback if players are not facing the location Cruise Chaser is dashing from. Optic Sight, rotating, places large circle AoEs called Hawk Blasters that start at opposing cardinals and rotates clockwise. This is all the stuff that he's doing during the limit cut phase. Make sure that you're not getting timed out. Whirlwind, moderate magical raid-wide damage. Great. Optical Sight, Bait. Large circle AoE targeting all players at the end of the cast bar. This is one of the things that he does in the next phase once it actually starts. This is the one that we have to bait on the outside, so we're running out on our cardinals. And then he's going to do the optical sight bait, and we need to all be spread around the outside of the arena so that nobody clips another player with that. It hits all 8 players. Photon sets players' hit points to 1. Will either target all players or just tanks. No further information on that.
Rip.
Spin Crusher. Frontal Cleave with a 3-second cast time, dealing significant physical damage and inflicting a heavy knockback. As Cruise Chaser stands still during the cast, it can be avoided by moving away from his front. Consider it an unmarked cone AoE that should be avoided, and do not aim it towards the party. That was another thing that was in the Savage fight. The tanks have to have him pointing a very specific direction, and then at the start of the cast, run behind him The fastest way to get to avoid that one is running straight through to the other side of his hitbox, and then running back to point him, keep him pointing in the same direction. Limit Cut, the shield. Cruise Chaser summons a small shield in front of him for roughly 6 seconds. If it is not destroyed, Cruise Chaser will gain a very heavy damage up, causing his next whirlwind to wipe the raid. It has about 120,000 hit points. That sounds extremely squishy.
How many seconds is it up for?
6
6.
seconds.
So by the time we target it, everyone gets 2 GCDs,
2
basically.
GCDs. 2 GCDs and like 3 off GCDs. Propeller Wind. Small raid-wide damage that also inflicts confusion, which can be avoided by breaking line of sight between you and Cruise Chaser.
That's what the thing
Ice
is
Tornado
for.
is for.
Yep.
Finally,
And
20
then-
mechanics later.
And Eternal Darkness, 5-second in Rage Cast. Cruise Chaser will also cast this ability when Brute Justice is defeated.
So they need to be killed pretty close to each other. Wait,
Or Cruise
No.
Chaser first.
Cruise Chaser first.
Yes.
No. Final Judgment also says 5-second in Rage Cast. Brute Justice will also cast this ability when Cruise Chaser is defeated.
Oh, right. So,
So, yeah,
they're core
pretty close.
compounds. All right. So that's it for listing all the abilities. Now for scrolling down to the next thing, Judgment Nisi. So Judgment Nisi is a very small dot that has 4 variations.
Can I stop you for a second? Can you post this so we can follow along?
It is still posted.
It is.
It's
Which
the police
one?
guide.
The one Iris posted, I think.
It's the one from 122, which is right. The link is right above the
Yes.
colored circles. Alright, so Judgment Nisi is the dot that has the 4 variations. They have 4 colors. In order to survive Gavel, you have to pass it back and forth among players for the entire duration of the phase until Gavel is cast. Gavel is, once again, the last thing that Brute Justice casts. Players must take great care in their positioning and movements in this fight in order to prevent deaths to Final Judgment. If at any point any of the 4 types of Judgment Nisi drop because of deaths, failure to pass Nisi, etc., it will become impossible to survive Gavel. So once again, anyone fucking up even a little bit is a wipe. Judgment Nisi passing should be handled in one of 2 ways. Either have DPS always pass and pick up Nisi from the tanks and healers, or have Nisi passes in specified spots of the arena marked with waymarks if necessary. Regardless of your passing method, DPS should have an assigned tank and healer partner that they will always pass Nisi to for the first 2 passes. Your partner may change for passes 3 and 4, depending on the Verdict debuff. Once Verdict casts, all players will be required to obtain a specific type of Nisi, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, or Delta, to properly resolve Gavel. So, I guess we'll get buddy system here in a second. Let's go over that. So, Judgment Nisi passes should be done in certain places throughout the phase in order to ensure that the demands of Verdict are possible to be met. The recommendation in the Police Guide is to pass to your assigned partner after Photon damage goes off. Pass again after Enumeration resolves. Pass again after Cruise Chaser's Plasma Shield is destroyed. If you have a Nisi debuff already, then you will be passing it to the player who needs it. So this is the first 2 passes are always between the same people, and once again, it's either going to start on all DPS or all tanks and healers. And so the person who, after the second pass, has the debuff, which is the person who starts. Let's see here. Hang on a second. Let's see. I start with it. I pass it there. I don't have it. I pass it there. I have it again. Yes. So if you start with it, then you will be the one to pass it to a different person for the last one, or for the third one. If you do not have an EC debuff, you will be taking the debuff from someone who has it. So pass with your required Verdict partner at any time after the third compressed water or compressed lightning explosion. Stay stacked with your partner to ensure no last-second Nisi drops before Gavel is cast. So you guys just stand on top of each other. Great. Compressed water and compressed lightning. At the start of the phase, a healer will get compressed water, and a DPS will get compressed lightning. When the debuff timers for compressed water and compressed lightning expire, they will explode in a small AoE around the player. The debuff will pass to a random player hit by the AoE, and the original player will be inflicted with water resistance down or lightning resistance down, respectively. This is, once again, the thing that needs to be maintained for the duration of the fight. So it's going to go off multiple times, and this is, as we said, to deal with the propeller wind. We need to be able to have a compressed water in a specific location, and the ice missile to freeze it. The core of this phase is essentially managing both compressed water and lightning stacks while managing Judgment Nisi debuffs. There are a multitude of different strategies for this, so they recommend shopping around until you find a strategy that fits your group. And they stress again that it should be fit to our group. So I think we'll probably want to find videos and stuff with that show locations that specific groups are doing for these passes. The biggest thing that that's going to affect how we decide to handle it is probably going to have to do with things like when our DPS cycles or whatever ours, and we're really cool with running, or where our waymarks are placed or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so link up. Nisi goes out, compressed water and lightning goes out, chakrams, and then optical sight, and then photon Nisi pass, and the first water and lightning. That's as far as we can expect to go. So I guess the first question is, are there any questions about the multitude of things that were described, many of which we will not get to? So I think we should...
The primary question, I think, should be, what kind of strategy do we think is going to be better for Nisi? Right?
So I think that we will probably want to have specific locations to pass, and it's the DPS's job to ensure that it passes. So like the tanks and healers stand on their assigned location, and then the DPS go to pick it up, and then like handle the carrying of it. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for.
Well, you've already split up tanks and healers along cardinals, so that...
Right, so now I'm going to pair off the tanks and healers. Tanks, healers with their DPS. So it should be...
Relative to C.
And it
Or rotate.
should be DPS moves to tanks and healers, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Tanks and healers, when we need to pass the Judgment Nisi, tanks and healers should not be moving during that phase to ensure that that the DPS can have a stationary target to go to. So these are your buddies for that phase. Now the next question is, I don't know.
I have a question. I didn't do Judgment Nisi in Savage, obviously. Well, I feel like I'm missing something important here. So when the phase starts, 4 people get marked with the 4 debuffs, right? Is that always the
Yes.
4 DPS?
No, it's sometimes DPS, sometimes tanks and healers, but it will
Okay.
always be all 4 DPS at the same time or no DPS. All DPS or no DPS.
Gotcha. And so when we're doing these swaps, is it 4 swaps occurring at that same time, or is it just 1 swap?
I
All
believe
players,
it's all 4.
like, there's nothing that is mechanically forcing them to swap at the same time, but you need to pass the debuff before it expires, or you will no longer have the debuff at the end of the fight. So
Okay.
we are setting specific times in the fight for the swaps to occur. You have wiggle room.
Got it. Then my next question: you're passing the debuff back and forth between your partner then?
So the first 2 passes are just to keep it up. So it's going to always be to and from your partner for the first 2 passes. The third pass is when people need to look at some point you will get verdict or something like that will tell you will get a verdict debuff. And that will say you need to have the red you need to have the red judgment. So at that point, if you don't have the correct Judgment Nisi at the end of the phase, whenever Gavel is cast, you just die.
So if I'm blue and someone's red, is it safe to assume that when the verdict comes, if we have to switch, it would tell those 2 people they need to switch, or is it really you just have to find out? Can it just totally screw you in that like you have to pass debuffs like 3 different times? Also, can you have more than 1 debuff?
No, if you get 2, you explode.
You can have more than 1 debuff, but you will fail the last thing, because the debuff is only ever on 1 person at a time, and once a player has 2 debuffs, then there will guaranteed be 1 person who misses a debuff.
I see. If someone has 2 debuffs and they try to pass, do both pass or just one
both
pass?
will pass.
Alright, so if any point someone gets 2 debuffs, you're screwed.
Yes.
Okay. Then, if 2 people that have debuffs meet, do they swap? Is that how that works?
I think they both get infected and they both explode. Not sure when they
Yeah.
explode, but they're screwed. They're both screwed.
Huh.
Like, if I have one of them and I pass to you and you have a different one, we are both screwed. I'm not sure
Okay.
if we die immediately or later, but we are definitely screwed.
I guess it'll become clear once I actually see it. The verdict things still seems strange to me. How do you... So, is it that the verdicts, when they go out, like if there's 2 red verdicts, one will always go to someone that doesn't have any debuff, and the other one will go to someone that does have one? Because if 2 people already have Nisis and they both need the red one, what do you do in that
I don't
situation?
think that'll happen.
No, that could totally happen. But for example, Placeholder and I both need the red one, the alpha one, right? And Midori and Slenta are the ones that start with it. So say Midori starts with it, passes it to Slenta, Slenta has it, and then passes it to Midori. And at some point, either me or Placeholder will not have a debuff. Then we go pick up the red one, we'll stand up here. For example, I'll have no debuff, and then I'll pick up the red one. And then at some point, yours will drop off, Placeholder, and then you come pick up the red one with me.
So after the second one goes off, it's okay to let yours drop off, or does someone else would have had to have picked it up, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So we can't let any of
You're
them
gonna
drop
need
off.
to pass it. It's going to need to be passed 4 times total, because the first 2 times you're just keeping it alive. The third time, verdict will happen, and then you'll know which debuff people need to cancel out, and then it needs to be swapped again so that the person who didn't have it the last time, because Judgment Nisi will only ever be on half of us at a time.
Alright, I'll try and
Does-
figure this out as I go. I have the feeling this is going to be a shit show for a few pulls, so I apologize in advance.
Well,
When
it's
it-
gonna be yes.
When it swaps, does the person who had it, does it drop off of them and just transfer over? Or do they still have it and the thing counts down until...
If it's like the last Judgment Nisi, it will continue. Like, it is a plague, so once I touch you, you will have, both of us will have it until mine expires, and I cannot pick it up again until
Until yours is gone.
yeah, and that's why at the end, like, let's suppose Neris and I both need blue, we'll just stand on top of each other so that even if it falls off of me, I'll get it again immediately. But if I pass it to Neris, and then I go stand over here, once mine expires, then I'll no longer have it.
So can I just say this again and tell me if I understand this correctly? There are 4 different Nisis, and in the first 2, we're just gonna, each of the partners is just gonna pass it back and forth to keep it alive. And then what's gonna happen is verdict is gonna happen, and somebody's gonna get, or several people are gonna get 2 like debuffs.
Everyone
each-
will get a judgment verdict. If I understand this correctly, everyone will get a judgment verdict that says, at the end of the phase, you need to have this color. And the way that we make that happen is on passes 3 and 4, we make sure that the person who has the debuff is giving it to the person who needs that color, that does not currently have a judgment debuff.
So it's one, each verdict is 1 Nisi. It's not 2 Nisis, and then you just do 1 at a time.
All the judgments should happen at the same time during gavel.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the debuffs for the judgment will also go out at the same time. So
I guess I'm just only seeing 1 verdict and 2 gavels.
There are 2 gavels?
There's only one gavel.
there's
should
the
be only
gavel
one.
debuffs get applied when he casts verdict. Then there's the gavel, which is the actual cast.
You did A8, right? It's the same, basically.
I hope you don't expect me to remember anything about A8.
Remember when we had to like go in a tornado to pick up a debuff and then like get the right orbs, get the right number of debuffs? This is like a combination of 4 and 8 where you just need the right color and then we'll be fine. And at the end of the cast, if we have the right color, we live.
So
So there's only 1 verdict, and we have to pass it twice, but we're just the third and fourth ones we're passing between the same people.
No. Well, sort of. So let's suppose you get the first infection. So you get hang on a second, let me open up my sign. You get
My
blue.
problem, by the way, but to communicate with me for stuff like this, it's a lot easier to if you can clearly use numbers in any way.
Okay, so start of the phase, you get the blue Nisi. So the first pass, you pass it to Midori. So now Midori and you both have it, and then yours wears off. Now Midori has that. For pass number 2, Midori's going to give it back to you. So now you have it, falls off Midori. Now, the DPS will be the ones who do not have the debuff. Everybody gets, or do not have a Nisi. Everybody gets a verdict, and the verdict tells you what color you need. And so, Placeholder and Tam both need blue. So, Tam already has a debuff. He has like the red debuff. If Tam tries to pick it up from you, then we're going to be screwed because the Nisi will be on 2 people. Because at the end, if anyone has both of them, so
Okay,
instead,
go stand in position, please.
so instead, placeholder will pick you up. Now placeholder has blue, and Tam gives me red or something like that because I need red. Now that's for the 3rd pass. Now for the 4th pass, the debuffs that you previously had, those are going to be gone, and now the tanks and healers get their correct color because the DPS will have the correct colors of that, or will be the ones holding the Nisi at the time. So if, say, Kanata needed red and you needed green, you would find whoever the green player is and stand, they would find you and stand on you, and the red would be passed to, and then we'll just stand there for the rest of the phase. I imagine we will have specified locations on the floors for the 4 places for the last part, where it's like, if you need, like, okay, if you have red Nisi, you always go to the red spot, and then if you need red, you go to the red spot, and so on and so forth.
Question.
Yes.
Are only 4 people getting verdict, or all 8 getting verdict?
All
Oh,
I get
wait.
is verdict.
Okay, and when verdict resolves, you have to have the color?
Yes.
Verdict
have
is
to
what
have-
puts it.
Just had the color.
Gavel is the thing that checks to see if you have a Nisi and no other Nisi.
So how do we duplicate a color? Because if we only start with 4 and we need to have 8 at the end, I'm confused.
The debuffs, like, if I have the debuff and it goes to Kanata, I don't lose the debuff immediately. My
Okay.
debuff stays until it times out. So as long as we're standing on top of each other, we will continue to make sure that the other one has that color until Gavel happens and all the debuffs get wiped off.
Okay. So we do essentially duplicate them in a sense.
Yes.
In that. Okay. I think that's what was throwing me off. I was like, it feels like there's 4 people that just always die, but that makes sense.
It's infectious. DC is infectious. Like, you touch, it's like rot. You touch them, you both have it.
The question
So-
is, when are we actually intentionally spreading it as opposed to just persisting it?
Yeah, and make sure that, we have to make sure that nobody accidentally runs over anyone else while we're doing the other elements of the phase, which are compressed water and compressed lightning, the chakrams in the optical sight, the missile command, which fires the earth missiles and the mines and the ice missiles, and so on and so forth. Like, those
Wait,
are
there's
all gonna-
other mechanics going on at the same time as this shit?
Jokes. Every single mechanic is happening.
This is the best.
Which is funny, right? Because if it was just Nisi, that'd probably be enough to justify a hard phase.
It was awful.
I
It
mean,
was like 13 minutes into the fight.
not all of the mechanics are going off at once, but I mean, they're going off in like probably pretty quick succession.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we saw the couple times we oopsed into that phase, the Nisi going out, and then the time that the first mechanic happens, and then the time that you have to run out and then get your Hawkeye blaster thing and then run back in is like 6 GCDs or something.
So, if I'm reading this right, we're not expecting the first pass until after the chakrams go out,
After the photon.
which happens at
Yes.
the same time as the chakrams. Okay. So, the very beginning of this phase, we're all starting in the middle. When do we split to our 8 way?
We should be loosely in our 8 ways, like we should be standing on the spoke, like right here. When the Nisis go out, you actually have to be like, hitboxes have to be touching each other to pass. And if the game hasn't improved in the last 3 years, it just might not pass anyway because it's fidgety. So anyway, we should be at the start of that phase on our spokes and ready to run directly out in the direction of our spokes.
Because it seems like right after Nisi, that's when compressed water and lightning hit, and don't we need to be stacked for water? Or is that just when the debuffs
No.
are going out?
Yeah, that's
That's one of the debuffs.
Okay.
And so with the compressed water, it needs to be person who has compressed water and then the person who is going to pick up the compressed water.
And you don't need to be touching, you just need to be within the AoE.
You always want to have at the very minimum 3 players in compressed water stacks because that deals less damage depending on how many people are stacked. The compressed lightning needs to be off by itself, dealing more damage depending on how many people are stacked. So compressed lightning is 1 player and only 1 other player to minimize the damage.
So how do we want to handle those? Do we have any sort of priority system for who goes and
I
gets the
have
first
a
lightning?
suggestion for those, but we can deal with that later.
I mean, that's the start of the
Walking
phase.
players
Really.
around.
We should start with that before we start mixing with Nisi.
So in,
Okay, well, I mean, basically, my thought was just that, regardless of where you do it, you get the vulnerability to the one you were initially hit by, right? So if you have the water stack, once it resolves, you have vulnerability for water, right?
Yes.
So
Which means
basically,
you
I
no
was
longer
thinking,
participate in any more water stacks.
yeah, basically, I was thinking have the healer that gets the initial water stack take the second lightning hit because they can't stack.
Yeah, that's pretty much what A8 was. It was the person who had the first water takes the second lightning, and then other than that, it was like the first, like tank A takes the first lightning with the person who gets the lightning debuff, and then person with the water debuff takes the second lightning with tank A, and then tank B always takes something or another. Like it was that was the way it was broken up.
Isn't that 6?
yeah, A6.
That was 6. Okay.
It's all blurring together.
You're right. A8 was the one that had just like 64 pages of mechanics.
Now, my actual question is, the chakrams on the side of the arena, are those consistent, or are they going to be randomly placed?
Random.
I think they're random and they're technically baitable.
Well, so that's why we're all in the middle at the start, because the chakrams spawn and they lock in their trajectory when they spawn, and that's when we run out. And you should be safe from the chakrams unless the chakram spawns right on your spoke, in which case you stand just a little bit off of your spoke to avoid the chakram. But it should be charging through the middle regardless.
Yeah, I mean, are their spawn places predictable or
No.
random?
That's random.
Well, it's probably going to be one of the 8 pie slices.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's always going to be in one of probably 8 locations. Sure.
Every time I've seen them spawn, they've been opposite each other, but I am not sure if that's going to be every time.
Seems like
I think it is. Should be. So if there's one at A, there's one at C.
it might be something where we rotate 1/16th, just so that we're all symmetrically spaced out.
Yeah, like one thing we can do is we can all stack and then just go to here. All go clockwise.
Or we can't really stack because we can't share the.
It's only 2?
Yeah, only 2 chakrams.
Or
You
no,
want more?
Like
One of the times I saw him spawn, it was like at C and at like 2 or B or something like that. Like they went across like that, so.
Yeah, pretty sure there's only 2, and they don't necessarily spawn opposite of each other.
But if we go to the inter cardinals, you should be safe. Hopefully. Wait, that's not guaranteed. Is it?
Well, It's just that when we move out, the people who are moving out towards chakrams need to sidestep just a little bit so that they dodge them.
But
Well,
also
but-
on the
And
other
not
side.
step on anybody else.
Well, we'll be at the outside of the arena, so you'll be very far from the closest person.
It's a pretty big explosion. I'm just saying, like, here
Hmm.
to here, I'm not sure that's safe.
To pass Nisi?
No,
No,
for the explosion. Yeah, the Hawkeyes or whatever.
Yeah. So the reason why we're running out is that everybody's going to explode, and if you're not at the edge of the arena evenly spaced out, there's a good chance that your explosions will overlap.
Okay.
I
Then
haven't had a good to see how big they are exactly, but
Well, like we're all around the edge, like here, right? Why don't we
If-
all just
yeah,
go at 16th over to the nearest clockwise edge?
If it's the same as A11, there is a little bit of wiggle room, but not a whole lot.
well, let's try that. And if we let's assume that that's safe until we see otherwise.
Great. All right. Do we want to get some more practice in on clearing the limit cut?
Yes, but one last question. Water and lightning. Do we know where we're doing that?
So nope.
Because I think it's plausible that we could get to that, do the Hawk Blasters or whatever, and then just flail and die.
Explode really quickly. Yeah. Well, since the water debuff will be on either me or nearest, it will be either west or south. But also, we don't want people to accidentally touch each other on the way to west or south.
You do need to be vaguely close by anyway, because photon happens after the optical sight.
Yeah.
That'll get most people kind of stacked, so maybe have the lightning pair just break off eastways or something.
All right. So I'm actually watching the video playthrough here. From the start. Okay. So we make it through limit cut. Everyone moves to the middle and stands on the ring. There's still a ring. There's still, like, the arena graphics change, but it still has the 8 spokes and the ring in the middle that's the same size. And then everyone has an 8-way direction. There's like 10 or 11 GCDs. And the first thing that happens is actually a whirlwind while the cast for the Nisi goes out. The Nisi is very obvious because it turns the it applies a sort of like grid effect across the arena. Then, because you're staggering tank DPS, healer DPS, you can see very easily who got what, and there's always a buffer between the two. And then as soon as the compressed water and lightning go out is when everyone runs to the outside. They're doing the 8-way split, and it shows here they're running directly on the Cardinals, except for the people who the chakrams were in line of. They're about like here. So like here and here are safe.
It doesn't matter if the optical sights overlap because you're supposed to dodge them.
Yeah. So as long as everyone's on the outside, then the next thing that happens is as the chakrams pass, they run back in, and then the optical sights explode, and nobody gets hit by them. So yeah, it is perfectly fine if they overlap. The middle is the only safe spot, and once again they run like to right here, right? Where you're not touching anyone else and you have your safe spot. Then Photon goes off and everyone does their pass. And the pass looks like that. That's what a pass looks like. You walk one spoke over to the person that you are assigned with. And then for a brief period, all 8 people will have an EC buff or debuff until the first ones fall off. The explosion with the compressed lightning goes off. The compressed water goes off. Looks like they're passing the lightning to one of the tanks. So the tank has the next lightning debuff. The healer with the water explodes it on the back side. And then the missiles go out and the enumerations go out. The enumerations stand in the middle-ish so that they're not overlapping, and the non-tanks take it. So the tanks have the bosses sort of like on the side. Everyone who's not a tank needs to be participating in the enumeration.
Okay. I think that's a lot of mechanics.
Yeah.
So
I think that's
my last question is directly related to positioning there. If so, assuming I have Cruise Chaser and Tam has the other guy. Wait, which one's the main tank?
Main tank is going to be on Brute Justice.
Okay, that's what I assumed. So, is our north and then east position? Does that sound like it's going to work?
They're actually kind of... Yeah, I guess north and east sounds about right. They're about 90 degrees split.
Okay. Alright. I feel good to go.
And Cruise Chaser is always pointed out.
Ugh, fine.
Because he has that frontal...
Cleave, yeah.
All right.
The only time Brute Justice needs to be pointed out is for Flamethrower.
And the double fist.
Yeah.
Even that one, not even that important.
Well, it's just important that only tanks get hit by it.
I don't like that it's all going on during the plague. We'll have to get close to Tam. But we can't hug.
Nope. Don't touch me. I'll give you a
Have
vibe.
Tam ride on your shoulders like Master Blessed.
Whoops, forgot food.
That's my fault.
Little dude didn't move.
I meant to fire starter him because he was at 27, but I missed him, and so I panicked to spared it instead, and it died. Whoops.
It's like, why scathe when despair will do?
Swift cast and despair. Rip me.
I think I'm 90k again.
You're slide casting.
You're dead.
Oh wait, that actually saved you. What? How the heck did that happen? Yeah, you.
I like how Tam does it half a dozen times before we get in here, and then we get in here, and I'm the one causing problems.
He passed the Nisi to you.
Yep. Different part of the server.
Yours is not in the game.
Oh, yeah, I see that now. I'm gonna go grab a drink.
You die in real life.
You tell him, guys.
Huh?
Delsoon is our new Lestat.
Yeah, there's a person who is not very bright, who does not listen to what people tell him, and asks dumb questions, but then acts like he understands everything.
But he's pretty nice.
He has a wonderful personality.
You know? I did almost kick him for doing spoilers in the story, though, so.
Oh, Delsoon.
Yeah. Tam knows.
I really never paid attention to anything he said, so I probably didn't even read.
Yes, on Monk.
Oh god.
I have it on good faith, and someone I really trust has told me that he's top DPS on Monk. Like on the
No.
Is the person you trust named Delsoon?
He's his biggest fan.
Look, he doesn't run parsers because that would be illegal, but somebody did, and he's top.
Snow did. He's like, I need to see what he's doing. Like, what's going on. Because he keeps telling stories. He's telling a lot of stories about stuff. Like, things that were happening to him in Party Finder. And I was like, I bet most of them are your fault.
Yeah, for what he says that happens in Party Finder, I'm just like, you know, I can't believe that he would be top DPS.
It's the old, if you run into one asshole, they're the asshole. If everyone you run into is an asshole, you're the asshole.
I mean, this is probably true, but not for him. He just runs into a lot of assholes.
Rotatoes.
Look, the only
Potatoes.
What?
Bro, lala.
I don't know what's happening right now.
We wanted to know about rotations.
Oh.
Rotations.
I mean, Snow tried to tell him the monk rotation, and he still was doing whatever the hell he wanted to, so. We'll see, though.
He needs to learn Zepla's samurai rotation.
If it's more than 4 buttons, I'm not sure he can. I think he must be young. Like,
It's literally she turns her character in a circle.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually. A lot of people that. Like, Delsoon is like a good example of the kind of person that. I wonder if they're just like 11 years.
Pretty true. Like, he has all the like being a compulsive liar is such an 11-year-old thing.
It's like the kind of thing that. Yeah.
What is it, 8th grader syndrome?
He
or
really
whatever?
likes Kingdom Hearts.
I bet his dad works at Nintendo.
Nah, man, his dad is Yoshi P.
Oh shit, you're
Friend's
right.
dad works at Nintendo.
Yeah, his friend's dad. Getting all those Smash leaks a month early.
Of course, growing up in Bellevue, that is something that I may have said.
I prefer the video game Donkey Smash League.
I will say all of my friends' parents worked in Microsoft or Nintendo or whatever. It was kind of funny, looking back on it.
Yeah, you might as well step out now. Hopefully your corpse will be... do you need to borrow my What the Fast login?
He dropped out of
I
this.
thought he
too.
disconnected. Like I heard.
Yeah, he
this.
like. He's all the way gone.
So is this phase making anyone else wish we were still doing Nail? I feel like Nail had less mechanics than this.
Yeah, but Nail had the kinds of mechanics I hate the most, which are like...
Random.
They're not, well, yeah, there was randomness to it, but the thing that I hate about it is like you have to be reading the chat log and doing different stuff based off of shit the boss says, and then
And it's not like you can just read it and know. You have to remember.
you have to memorize it, and then bosses spawn in random locations, and someone has to be swiveling their camera around and find 3 locations of 3 bosses. Not just like look around, you have to like put your camera down on the floor because they're flying, and if your camera's too high up, you won't see them. Like, fucking hate dive bombs so much.
They weren't that bad.
Maybe not for you, but I hate them.
You just
And you
go-
can't tell me what I hate.
Okay.
Don't you fucking tell me what I hate.
Here's a thought that could be awesome. Do you think we'll get the PSO2 crossover finally?
What?
Maybe.
Since it's releasing in the US?
8 years later.
Yeah.
That didn't die. Is that out now or is it still in beta?
It's in beta for the US version.
It comes out next
Have
month?
you ever
Heavy
watched
installed.
videos of PSO2 players doing the Odin fight?
No.
Oh, it's hilarious if you've played the game because they try to iframe through AoE markers, but they copied the AoE system of this game for that fight only. It does not go well for them.
Yeah, the way they lock in AoE damage in this game is probably the thing that I think is the least good.
Once you're good at abusing it though, you can get away with a lot of shenanigans.
It was like,
Believe me.
visibly it hit you. Why didn't it hit you? It's like, oh, I wasn't in the orange marker when it went away.
But you exploded.
Doesn't matter,
Abusing
man.
that system has kept me having fun in a lot of fights. And it has helped my DPS.
Alright, B&B.
Oh, there's this bag. Characters left.
RIP.
Oh, we should take like a minute anyway.
Yeah, everyone, I'm sure my brain's not the only one that got fried from all that.
So after we do this 1 hour explanation of the mechanics, we forget.
Anyway,
Luckily, the world first is a black mage point of view, so at least I can figure out my timing pretty easily. I don't know what the rest of you guys are gonna do.
I would be a lot less critical of the AoE system in this game if they just made the graphics line up with the AoE marker. like if the damage were timed with the graphics, it would feel so much better.
All I'd have to do is whatever the certain latency is, like on the end of a spell, like 0.25 seconds or whatever. Wow, my dog's going crazy. 0.25 seconds, just make the explosion happen 0.25 seconds visually faster, right? That seems like it wouldn't be that hard for them to do. I don't know why they never did.
I would be curious to be a fly on the wall during that conversation. They're like, why don't we just delay everything by a third of a second? Like when the AoEs go off. Just keep the visuals and the music and everything synced up. Just delay when the attacks go out.
Just be happy they don't do the kind of shit they do in 11 now.
It seems like the kind of thing that is probably so trivial in a dev environment for them to just do. Just like, take this number, add X to all these numbers, subtract Y from all these numbers. Let's try the fight and see how it feels. And they probably did it, and it was a disaster. And I can't imagine why.
I mean, the easy thing that occurs to mind is that the visuals themselves are also tied to your latency. For example, it'll be a lot slower to show up if you're a North American trying to work on the Japanese servers. There is some dynamic latency compensation in the game, as is demonstrated by the slide casting variability.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't be.
Also, like the fact that it's already super precise about the orange markers, right? The orange markers are a really good guide on whether or not you will get hit by an AoE. They just don't time the visuals of the attacks with the orange markers. All right, so are we all back in? How's your latency?
I mean, my latency was never being a problem. It just kind of randomly stopped.
Sorry, I mean, how is your stuttering and disconnecting?
Again, it wasn't even being a problem until it just decided to bug out. So
Just not consistent.
Okay, I guess we'll try it again.
So it feels fine, with the caveat that it felt fine before.
Understood.
Well, let's just see if you're pulling an Air Jordan moment when we come in here.
You're funny.
Look, from where I'm standing, everyone else is just huge. I can't really distinguish between 5 feet tall huge and 12 feet tall huge. It's all huge to me.
All cats look same. Is that what you're saying?
They do both
Wait.
have blue hair. Yikes. That wasn't even mine.
That was Tam's dead.
We step out for a second, and my lag comes back.
That's where you left it. Outside.
And now I tracked it into the house. Great.
Should have wiped your feet.
You wear your shoes in your house?
Subhumans.
Did that shield go off?
Let's find out.
What? Wait, isn't that when...
Oh, that's the wrong thing.
Isn't that when home game is supposed to go off?
It might have been late because Living Liquid froze for like 3 seconds.
So it was living ice.
Yeah.
Living solid.
simultaneous explosion.
Cool.
Barely got. Oh wait, what? Wait, what?
We're done with this poll.
This is bad.
Yep. Wait, you were at
Okay.
full HP. I'm certain you're at full HP.
I really don't know why it just suddenly wants to not be running fine in here.
Because you're in the frozen north.
Yeah, too late for me to get a number.
Oh.
The wall does exactly your HP and damage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it removes it.
Okay, so I didn't die to the wall. It was pretty close, I couldn't tell. I was like, here.
So many dead people. I just ate an incredibly spicy piece of garden. Close. 8.
1, 2. 3, 4.
Ah, that guy. Guess I'm dead. Explain in your gate, please. Ah, that's when the seed comes out. Oh,
Oh,
and
we-
your final decree. You already have your final decree also. Oh, no,
That
no,
No, that is the
You shouldn't.
no, never mind. That is the
Final judgment is the thing you get if you get 2.
Yeah,
And you
verdict
die.
is when you get the thing that tells you what color you need to be, and that doesn't happen until halfway
Oh,
through
okay.
the thing.
Alright.
Also, we moved out way too early. We really just stand there for a long time.
Yep.
It's when you see the debuff for compressed water and lightning. You'll see the rings appear under people. That's when you run out. The chakrams should also be up at that point.
I just don't know how much that matters for you to be stacked.
Oh. Oof.
But you were very not stacked.
Yeah, because I have to. The only time I can move is between instrument casts.
Because they are short.
They
1
are.
second.
Yes.
Or like 0.8 seconds with.
No, 0.97.
If you played Aster, all of your spells would be short.
If you played Lalafell, you would always be short.
Wow.
No.
A. Whoa!
Too
Ow.
soon.
Rip.
I think you started running too soon.
I'm scared.
I think I lost track of something there.
I think a lot of us got clipped by 3's cleave. I saw like 4 people get knocked forward from it.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I mean, it was facing out towards the edge, so
Were they too far towards the center, maybe? Or were people too far out?
I don't know.
Far out, man.
I was right here. I was fine.
I am not ready now for 100 seconds.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Okay.
I started the thing too early.
I'm not the one who started the countdown early. Be disappointed in your tank, buddy.
We could suicide.
It's actually faster.
Yeah, let's do that. Also, for the record, I am not disappointed in Tam. I'm disappointed in both of you.
But
I'm not disappointed in anyone.
I'm disappointed in everyone.
Except Delsoon. I'm definitely disappointed in Delsoon.
I'm double disappointed in Delsoon.
Delsoon should be disappointed in Delsoon.
What is this? Is that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oof.
Unlikely.
I don't know if like anyone watches the stream.
I tried to, but then I looked at your map and I get disgusted.
Wow.
I know every time I open it up. Oh shit, I just lost target on the boss.
It's fine, no one will know.
I thought Midori encouraged everyone to watch it when they were learning to do Omega, and then after a while they just said fuck.
that's exactly what happened.
Well, also the hot bar.
Spicy.
Yeah, like 0.5%. Yeah, it is.
Still does 18k, that's bullshit.
B.
Oh,
Oh no, I was too far.
Wait, that wasn't enough healing? Are you kidding me?
Yikes.
We need to be full.
We were basically.
I was
full.
honestly a little surprised to be alive, so Rapture went off as J-Kick did, and you didn't actually get it.
Oh.
You got the
So,
Indulgence, but not the Rapture to follow it up.
Brute Justice has less HP than Jigglypuff.
Yes. There's also 2 of them.
This just in. My fortune cookie from last night.
Actually, wait. There's
Friends admire your strength. Do you guys admire my strength?
Is that a fortune?
Does that mean we're your friends?
Well, see, it's a litmus.
Damn, Midori with the like real burn.
I don't know. I consider you my friends. You're all invited to my wedding.
As long as it's not like a HBO miniseries wedding.
What?
You know, like a little Game of Thrones kind of thing going on.
no red
I don't
weddings.
think too many people are gonna die there. Maybe just a couple.
Depends.
Sounds like a boring wedding.
I mean, I could try to squeeze in a few more deaths, but it's tough.
It's a lot, but it's just isn't.
You could do like my sister and brother-in-law, and their reception was actually a land.
Let's say, isn't that what we do for fun?
Do people still do LAN parties?
Whoa! What? Whoa! What? It was on top of the fucker. You saw that, right?
People sort of do LAN parties, but most of the games they play are connected to
Online.
a remote server.
That's why I usually spaz and run all the way through the arena.
If you can get him to the middle, it'll definitely be fine.
Well, that time I had to finish a GCD because it wasn't below 25.
Right?
More like Duke 3D parties over what was it?
I don't know. I think Counter-Strike and Diablo 2 were in the heyday.
1.6 or source?
1.6.
3.0 beta.
What?
It was all
Played it when it
about
was new.
Civilization 2 hot seat mode. No, that was miserable. It would literally take 8 years.
How about Alice Centauri? Hot seat.
Alpha Centauri. Well, you didn't have to hot seat that one. It had
But you could.
it's true. It had actual simultaneous turns.
I forgot about that.
That was like the biggest innovation that made it playable.
Huh.
Oh, I died.
To what?
Damage.
I think you died to clean.
Drainage.
Why am I bothering to like get these throttles off?
I don't know, but no one ever takes my res.
I wonder why.
Yeah, the thing about Diablo 2 LAN parties, though, is you just, like, run into the black wall of the edge of the world, and be like, well, I guess we're done playing tonight.
Unreal Tournament, anyone?
2003.
Now, man, let's
Um,
break this out. IRL.
2000? Oh, StarCraft.
Only
Yes.
if we no rush 20.
Yeah, here with that casual shit.
Fastest. 10 or 20.
I will 6-pool you all day.
I didn't know up Baldur's Gate 1 until Baldur's Gate 2 came out. It was a little hard to go back and play it at that point, but I did, but
Rip.
I only missed one GCD on that guy. I don't think that was my fault.
That's mine. I guess. My tiny DPS. I forgot to switch the hand. Well, I thought I had, and then I realized I wasn't.
GoldenEye 64.
Don't look at my screen.
Have you played that game recently? It controls awful. Like,
Oh,
playing FPS
it's
on
hilarious.
PS4 is
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah. Those games were terrible.
I mean, that's the thing is like at the time, the ability to look up and down was a skill.
And I didn't realize how bad it was when we were kids playing it. I don't think we had that much. But I went back
Why
and played
I
it
got
like a
much
couple of
cheated.
years ago. I could not play it. It was impossible.
So did anyone play the new Tetris on N64?
164?
Yes.
I think it was legit the best 4-player competitive Tetris game.
Didn't like another Tetris game just come out like last year?
Well, there was Tetris 99.
Yeah, I heard that was good.
Yeah. But that's like 99 v 99 competitive.
I think I have legit like 90 million lines in that new Tetris game.
Had a ball and what? What the fuck, hand? Now it sucks it up. Anyway, it had a ball and soundtrack.
Yes.
Gotta play Perfect Dark, man, so you can fight those dark sims.
Alright, we got 15 minutes. Let's get a few good polls. I'm all for talking about retro games, but let's die to something new as a team.
That basically sounds like great.
I wasn't even that close. What are you talking about?
Ah.
Oh, you had other problems. Alright, well, we're gonna die now.
Actually, I think we're okay. Oh, what happened to Carrot?
You thought.
Well, you know, there was a puddle where I was supposed to put my thing, so the beams crossed each other.
Let's see. I don't know why we're so good.
Yeah, I ran into a wall like 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna make the DPS.
That didn't even
Ha!
kill
Get
you!
wrecked, Granada!
That didn't
Get
even
wrecked!
kill you! What the heck?
Did you rescue him into the wall?
No, into the water, but the water didn't tick.
Wrong chat.
That was the right chat. I don't know if anyone's actually online to read it. But... E.
1, 2. Four. 5, 6. 7, 8. Oh, you are standing so far back. Why are you like 3 spaces back? I just fucking instantly died. Great.
That's a pretty wide cleave with the chakra.
It's really big.
Alright, so what killed you, Solenta?
Hmm.
Was I too far back or was someone else?
I thought I went
Oh.
1.5.
Okay. So Kanata, you were like here.
Yeah, I went 1.5.
No, go here.
I thought I should have been here.
No, you didn't go nearly far enough.
Are we talking about 5, 6?
7,
8.
Oh, 7, 8? 7, 8 can go like 2 pie slices from 5, 6.
Oh, okay.
You stopped like here, and I was like here, and I was like, wait. No, I tried to run back, but I got cleaved.
Okay, I can go 2 instead of 1.
7, 8 should be like near the end because there's like no space restrictions at that point.
Mm-hmm. And everyone can run to the middle.
3, 4, and 5, 6. I don't think they're super confusing, but they're a little bit more constrained. 1, 2, and 7, 8 are really open. So just like abuse that.
Is it okay to face the 7 key forward?
So that is a thing that some groups do.
Okay, so it's not the biggest thing to do late on the turn on 7.
Correct.
Okay, I can totally go 2 then.
Based on where 5, 6 are, you shouldn't actually be going a full 2, but definitely you should be right before one of the card intercardinals or whatever.
Yeah, I just went like over 1 and then like as soon as the thing dropped from 6, I was like, good enough.
I don't know, it might be okay, but you just stopped so far short of what I was expecting that I wasn't ready.
Probably need limit break on limiting liquid. But probably, I mean, like, do it now.
Wait. Wait for hand to go off at least.
No, they were fine. It's still gonna be really tight, actually. Tragic.
Alright. Dare I say, I think this should be our last poll if we make it, or even if we don't.
I agree to that.
What was that?
Ad died.
Must have been like an AoE or something. That sucked.
Probably, yeah.
All right. Well,
Yes, I Dragon Song in there.
I think everyone does their AoEs there. Yeah, it's just unfortunate.
It's 2 targets,
Oh, well.
yeah.
I'm gonna head out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yep.
Good
all
night.
right.
So, two things. One,
Mhm.
I think that New Tetris is the Tetris game that I played enough of single-handedly for my entire lifetime. I know that my friend and I would just sit down and we would play, line like 1,500, 2,000 line matches for like 15 in a row all night long
hmm
until it was 6 a.m. And Baldur's Gate 2 is one of the longest games that I've replayed the most times in my life. I probably played through the entire game like 9 or 10 times.
Wow. I've only done that to like Diablo 2, and that's.
I spent more time in a lot of other games.
I mean, like just in terms of number of times I've replayed it.
Oh,
I don't think I've replayed anything of that magnitude that many times. Well, the only thing about it, there was some game